You know the feeling when somebody asks you about a goal, a dream, or one thing of yours that means a lot to you, and they just put it down and say to you, that's impossible, you cannot achieve that. And you think, I am going to prove them wrong now because I've got a dream and I don't want other people to put it down. But then when the next day rolls around, you simply cannot do it. I was in your exact spot until I implemented a few steps that I'm going to cover here on how you can go from lazy, undisciplined, lost with just implementing one mindset method towards getting to that end goal. And the mindset is the foundation of everything, because as one thinketh, he becomes. Because one day I discovered that there was an ability to improve yourself. I had never ever thought about that. It was in 2022 when motivational TikTok, people who spoke about like improving yourself had really blew up. I started to see more David Goggins, more Jordan Peterson, people who were blowing up at that time. And I discovered that there was an ability to improve myself. So I dedicated myself to a few habits and a few things that really resonated with my core values, and I decided that this was the path that I was going to take. And once I started to implement a few of these things from a few different people, I simply could do it. I could finally take action, be the type of person who can be ruthless whenever somebody asked me about a dream. I was confident that I could accomplish it simply because I had the right toolkit for myself. Now I want to dive into the protocol that I used to get this done. So the reason that you need a strong mindset is that will correlate with the results, because the results that I've gotten is I've generated over 1 million YouTube views in 90 days. I have built an aesthetic physique. I have gotten pretty much 75% top grades in almost every single subject, like 75% in school with less than 30 minutes of studying per week. I have literally accomplished these things simply because I decided to shift my mindset. Now let's dive right into it. It's a very, very simple method. It's called the WAMDD method. And what that stands for, it's basically an acronym. So that is willpower, action, motivation, delayed gratification, discipline. That's the method. And why this method? Simply because I decided that this was the protocol that I pretty much followed and that got me my results. So I simply got the results from this simply because I had the foundation to simply get there faster, because I implemented these things without even knowing it. So this is why I'm going to break down exactly. So first of all, willpower. What is willpower? It's your ability to simply just reject an urge. So for example, if you're addicted to something, let's say you're addicted to doom scrolling, pretty much everyone is addicted to scrolling or feels an urge or a pull towards doing it. And you're sitting there with your phone in your hand. Willpower is simply the ability to reject that and neglect that urge and simply turn your way to the thing that you really need to do. So for example, it can be studying, it can be whatever. Do something that feels a little bit uncomfortable, but you reject that urge and you simply pull yourself away. And willpower is a skill like every other one. And there have been countless studies that have said that willpower is limited, you can't really improve your willpower, whatever. But you know what is pretty interesting about that is limited? It's simply a skill like any other skill. So for example, if you were to train in the gym and somebody would say, if you go to the gym, your muscles will become fatigued. Well, that's the exact point. You simply train it to drain yourself from willpower so that it strengthens itself, so that the next time you get an urge, you can simply resist it. And I will go about the specific action step, which is pretty simple. If you want to improve your willpower, you simply need to set yourself in situations where you're creating urges for yourself and trying to control it. So one thing that I like to do when it came to junk food and simply neglecting it, because I really like to have a snack or whatever. So what I did, this will seem a bit weirder and almost like I'm a psychopath or something like that. There is something wrong with me for doing this. So what you do is you take something that you like. So for example, it can be a chocolate bar, and what you simply do is you put it on your desk. I've got my desk right here where my computer is. You simply put it on a place where you can visibly see it, and you just sit and stare at it for like 10 minutes and just ask yourself, why am I craving this? And you try to literally feel the taste. How good would it feel for you to actually indulge in this craving? And then when you've created the craving, you simply say to yourself, no, I am not going to do this because it won't lead me to a goal. It's not going to align to the things that I've set myself towards. So this is how you simply kind of like neglect the urge that you will get one day. So the more you do this, the better you will get. And a recommendation of mine would be to do this like before you go to sleep, because willpower is kind of like, it's a very, very time-based like resource. So one day you can feel a strong urge to do these things, and the other day you won't really feel a strong urge. On the days where you've been struggling a lot, for example, with an urge, you don't need to do this exercise because you've already trained yourself. But if there is a day where you felt like, I've not really had any strong urges, just sit and stare at it for 10 minutes and just ask yourself, why have I been doing this? And the reason that we do this is simply because under a controlled circumstance, if you can control yourself for 3 or 10 minutes, then that simply means that you've trained yourself a little bit and you've strengthened your willpower a little bit, so the next time you can maybe sit for 10 minutes and feel a little bit less of a pull towards these things. You try to just be logical about your vices and ask yourself, why am I even craving these things? I know it's not really healthy for me, and if you are the type of person who genuinely takes action on this and is not procrastinating and not doing that, you will make so much more progress than the people who don't, simply because you will be able, when you do get successful and when you do get the progress that you've always wanted, you will be able to reject the things that you know won't be good for you. Because imagine that one day where you've finally made it and a deal comes up to you, or something that doesn't really align to you but is very, 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 very rewarding for you to do in the moment, but that will ruin your life in the future. For example, cheating or something like this, that you just make a stupid decision in the moment so that your life will get worse in the future, simply because you wanted some instant gratification right now instead of delaying it. So ask yourself, how can I improve my willpower from doing this exercise? So that was willpower. I forgot to mention that I've got some exciting news for you. If you go to the link in the description, I will help you out to slingshot past all of your competition. Just check it out if you've actually had the attention span to watch all the way through this point. So just go to that link in the description, just check it out. I promise you that it will help you slingshot past your own competition. Goodbye and good luck. Now, when it comes to motivation. Motivation everybody's heard of. Motivation is simply a pull towards something. I was on this lecture about a week ago with my football team, and they were speaking a little bit about motivation, and we didn't really get a clear, specific understanding of what motivation even is. So motivation is urge. You specifically want to do something. Motivation is the craving you have for something, and this can be for positive things and it can be for negative things as well. So for example, you can have a pull to go to the gym, you can have a pull to study. You can get these bursts of motivation for positive habits that will improve your life, or you can get bursts of motivation for doing the things that you know will ruin your life. For example, scrolling or junk food or alcohol or parties or hanging around with people that just bully you or aren't really treating you the way that you want to. So simply, motivation is urge. It's you wanting to do something. And how can we utilize this? Well, in situations where you feel motivated to do something, for example, when it comes to a positive habit, for example, you want to study. What you simply do then is that you go and study and you indulge in this and you try to just rinse the motivation as hard as possible when you get the period. Because lately I've actually been quite motivated for YouTube, not like the last few days, but before that I was really, really motivated. And what I simply did was I worked extremely hard for this, simply because I knew that this motivation won't really be around forever, so I might as well just rinse the benefits that I can get right now. So try to just build momentum, and then when you've gotten a little bit of progress, what you can do then is that the motivation will probably be gone, but you will still have been left with some progress. And as we know currently, is that progress is one of the best motivators. Because imagine when you made progress on your mindset, your discipline. Just visualize yourself in the future when you are standing there and somebody asks you, how did you achieve that physique, or how did you achieve that grade, or how you were able to wake up early in the morning to work hard towards your dreams. And you simply say, I rinsed out motivation because I watched a guide on it and now I have finally been able to implement it. So what I'm urging you to do today, because if you're in the beginning of your own journey, you're most likely pretty motivated for this. And if you aren't, just try to pursue discipline. And discipline is the skill. It's kind of like the reverse thing of motivation. Discipline is specifically doing something that we don't feel like doing. So for example, right now, if I don't feel like taking a sip of water, for example, I simply do it. If I want to take a sip of water and I don't do it, this is discipline and willpower. So discipline is specifically doing something that you don't feel like doing. And this is important that you understand, because some people think that discipline is going to the gym or studying or whatever, but discipline is simply the act of pursuing something that you don't feel like doing. If I didn't feel like standing up right now and doing 10 push-ups, that's an act of discipline. So simply find something that you're like, I don't really want to do this, and you just kind of like, you just don't really feel like doing it. So what you do then is that you go and you pursue it. So you, for example, if you don't feel like, let's say you don't feel like really making the washing your clothes or whatever, or putting, like, you have a water bottle standing, I don't have a water bottle, but if you have a water bottle standing on your desk kind of like this, and you don't really feel like doing it, you're like, nah, I don't really want to do it now because I'm gonna get into studying or whatever, you simply take it out and you throw it away, or you put it where it's supposed to be. And that's simply how you improve your discipline. Find a small task that you can utilize today. This is an action step for you. Think of something, what do you want to do? And you perhaps say like, I just want to, I don't even know, but I just want to go to the gym after this. You simply say to yourself, okay, I'm going to go to the gym, but first of all, I need to do this. Do something that is uncomfortable, deliberately uncomfortable, for you to challenge yourself with discipline. So pick a discipline habit that are currently a vice of yours. It can simply be to wipe your table, it can be to wipe a screen. Something that I don't really like to do is kind of like unpack my bag after school. That's something that I'm not really motivated for when I do get home. I can just do it later. I try to always come up with excuses. But when I am aware that I am trying to kind of like escape this discipline, I simply say to myself, this is an opportunity for me to utilize discipline and improve my discipline skills. I just unpack it and I go and put things where they're supposed to be. And you will realize how easy it is when you've just overcame this first obstacle. And this is how I improved my discipline. And simply understand that if you just take one small habit and obsess over it with discipline, then you will realize all of a sudden, okay, so now I'm making my bed, my room is clean, I don't have much garbage on like my desk, there's not much things, I'm living a pretty simple life right now. Now I can actually take on other things simply because I've practiced with these smaller habits. So now when it comes to discipline, you simply just need to do that. And now delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is simply your ability to delay happiness. You neglect something and you reject something that you want right now for something bigger, better, more purposeful, fulfilling in the future. So for example, an act of delayed gratification is going out for a run. Perhaps you want to have a chocolate bar and you simply look at it and you think to yourself, I'm supposed to be out running right now. So you go and dress yourself and you feel uncomfortable because perhaps it's raining outside or you don't really feel like it. You go out and you do it anyway. So you feel this you feel basically pretty happy, pretty average, and then you feel a little bit uncomfortable simply because you pursue discipline. So your baseline of happiness goes down, and your level of stimuli, simply because you get reminded of the idea of being out running and being out, kind of like breathing heavily and feeling like you're essentially like gonna pass out or something. So you think of that and you get a little bit uncomfortable. But when you do get home after an hour, you get this huge spike, and you kind of like create this new baseline for yourself. And this is simply how you become more happy. You just start doing more delayed gratification activities, and a few of them are meditation, which is simply a focus habit. That is a habit where you focus on your breathing pattern right now. It's pretty uncomfortable and very, very boring. You focus on your breathing pattern right now. You inhale and you try to feel like the sensations of breathing in your nose or in your stomach or whatever, or in your chest. Then what you do is that your mind will automatically think of something else, simply because it gets bored and your attention span is not so great that you can focus for like 20 minutes straight. That's pretty much all. That's only like monks who can do that. But you will realize that you'll start thinking about something, then you will realize that you've thought about something, and then you specifically bring back you to the breath. And the reason that this helps so much is simply because, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to unpacking your school bag, for example, what you need to do is you need to just remind yourself of why you're doing this. You can remind yourself to be disciplined, to work out even though you don't feel like it, to utilize these things and be in for the delayed gratification. And and somebody might say like, oh, I don't want to sacrifice for my future self, because like, imagine if I just have 3 days left to live. Well, first of all, exceptions don't disprove the rule. That's one thing. But the other thing is that delayed gratification feels better than instant. I 100% can guarantee you that. The moments where I slack and I'm not really disciplined, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was planning on going to sleep a bit over an hour earlier yesterday than I usually do. But I simply just coped out, and I just stayed up until my normal bedtime. So I wasn't able to actually get some work done before school, and that simply meant that I wasn't in for the delayed gratification. And how do you think I felt when I went to sleep? Not very, very good. So what I'm saying here is that generally you need to be in for the delayed gratification. And today I've reversed that by getting home from school. I meditated, I had a black coffee, and now I'm sitting here at my desk simply recording. And this is how you start to improve your life. You simply are in for the delayed gratification. And understand that you need to start small with delayed gratification as like discipline. So pick one habit that are something like exercising, meditation, gratitude, going and just praising somebody for something that they've done. Just doing something that will improve your life in the long run. It can also be going for a walk or whatever. And you will start to feel better. Now, action. Action speaks for itself. Action is your ability to pursue something continually. And action is what will glue all of this together and turn it into something beautiful. Because imagine that you have a car. I'm not really great at drawing, so I will try my best of drawing a car. So yeah, we will have this as my car. This was such a terrible drawing, but so this is my car, for example. Here's the window. I have no idea what I've even drew, but whatever. This is your car, and imagine simply the thing that you put into it, kind of like the fuel that you put into your car. Whatever that is going to lead you to a destination. So if you put in, for example, instant gratification into your car, or you put in delayed gratification into your car, what will happen is that if you put in instant gratification, you will literally kind of like, you will go to a place where, okay, so you'll go to the destination where, okay, we can imagine it like 2 houses. So we have 2 houses right here. And the second house, here you have happiness, you have growth, you have fulfillment, you have contribution. And here you simply have misery, loneliness, unhappiness, kind of like, I don't even know what's an emotion, anxiety, depression, malevolence, whatever. And if you put in instant gratification, you will simply go to this house where you're not really happy. And at this house, you will feel hopeful, fulfilled, happy, grateful, whatever. It's simply about the thing that you put into it. So the actions that you take will dictate where you end up. So you can literally pick where you want to end up with an activity like delayed gratification or instant gratification. That's why I'm preaching these things. Simply because I know that you're in control of your own life and you know that as well. So now I've given you the exact blueprint that you can utilize. So you get to decide, are you willing to put in the work or not? But this is simply how you get to your dream goal. And to summarize everything up is simply action steps. So the things that you do. Willpower. I like to call this exercise something called stare like a psychopath. You simply stare at the thing like a psychopath. Now, motivation, push as hard as possible and try to build momentum so that when the motivation kind of like diminishes, you are prepared and you can literally get to that end goal simply because you've built motivation on top of the motivation because you've made progress, and progress is a great motivator. Action. When it comes to action, you simply need to act like a robot, and what I mean by that is create a sustainable routine. So for example, just write out a list of like 5 things that you're going to do tomorrow in order, in what priorities, in what order, and then you simply just act out that. Just act like a robot when it comes to these things, because it's hard to be very actionable when it comes to the moment, and delay gratification, because then it's hard. Then you simply need accountability. And accountability is simply somewhere where you can hold yourself accountable and responsible for your own action. Then you can create a habit tracker. It's simply a list of habits that you do have. You write the habit at the top, you write today's date to the left, and then you have a box. You draw a box, and if you do it, you just take the box. If you don't do, you leave it completely open, and you say to yourself, if I don't, I'm going to fill this out completely honestly over the next course of an entire month. And then when you've got your score, you simply try to improve that every single month. So this is how you keep yourself accountable. You can also have accountability partners and stuff like that. And when it comes to discipline, pick a habit that you dislike or hate and do it with habit tracker. So pick a habit that you hate and then just do it and write it down on your habit tracker and simply do it. Delayed gratification, pick one habit and create a routine. So simply when you get home from school, do a small habit like write down 5 things you're grateful for, or simply say to yourself, I'm going to do 10 push-ups every single day that when I wake up, because this will create momentum so that in the future you will literally have gotten so many results simply because you decided a small thing. Just a side note on this is simply the moments where I've grew the most in my own life when it comes to like my own self-improvement. It has simply been when I started small and I lowered my ego enough so that I did it, so that I could keep pursuing these things. This is how I transformed my mind in just 25 minutes, and I really do hope that you got some value out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.